Okay? So, I think we are not quite done with practice test 1 yet, so we'll finish that up. And then we'll start number 2. All right, so here we go. Synthetically divide. All right. So we're going to actually do a division problem here. So we're on practice test 1, problem number 11. Practice test 1, problem number 11. This is where we left off. And all the first part's videoed. All we have to do is go to Canvas and watch it, right? If you missed that last week. All right, synthetically divide. Now, look at the problem. What's going to go in the box? -1. Let me really careful here, guys. What's going to go across the top? 1, 0, -3, 8, -2. Why is there 0? There's no x cubed. And remember, when we do synthetic division, we start with whatever power starts, x to the 4th, but then every power has to be named going down there. Oh, Lincoln, you're here. Oh, let me fix that. Okay, so here we go. Draw a line across, drop this 1 straight down. Here we go. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. Now, my brain might still be a little foggy. So what do you think? Anybody match that?
Yep.
Okay. Now, notice the answer blanks. I have to write the quotient and the remainder. All right, so what is my quotient going to be? 1x cubed. Remember, it's always down 1 from the original problem. So the original problem was x to the 4th. We divided by x, so now it's x cubed. And then minus x squared. I'm not putting in the 1s. You can if you want. It doesn't matter. Minus 2x plus 10. And what about that -12? What's that? That's the remainder. So in the remainder blank, you can either write -12, or you can write -12 over x plus 1. I don't care. You can, since there's a specific blank for the remainder, if you just write -12, that's okay. That's okay. But you can also put it over this if you wish. Okay? If x plus 2 is one factor of this, so x plus 2 is a factor of this, our job is to find the other factors. So remember, altogether, this problem is going to have 3 factors, right? So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, but we already know one of them is that. Does anybody remember from our notes what our strategy was, Carson? Divide it out, exactly. We know this is a factor. So I'm going to divide, don't need any zeros this time. I know I'm kind of under the board there, but everybody okay with that? No zeros necessary? And what's going to go in the box if this is what I am dividing by? -2. So run the 1 straight down, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply. Oh, wait, did I know that was going to happen? Yeah, I did. How did I know that was going to happen? Because they told me This was a factor. And what does it mean to be a factor? You divide in and leave no remainder? And that's exactly what happened. Exactly what I thought would happen. And that's where you been, buddy. You need to take that sweatshirt off, that's not in uniform. I know it's cold, honey, but you got to wear uniform. Las Vegas Raiders is not a college. Yeah. Even I know that, man. Alright. Here you go. Okay, get your practice test out. You have it from last week. Alright, what's left here, guys? After I do the division, what's left? X squared minus 8x minus 9. Remember, the problem started out as x cubed. When we do the division, it's always one less. Okay? Now, what am I going to do with that? Remember what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find these.
Negative 9.
So that should factor. Does that factor?
Negative
Minus 9 plus 1. So there we go. Okay, practice test out. Where's your bag? All right. And then the last one. The height above the ground is given by this equation. We've seen that kind of equation before. But let's read this problem very carefully because it's way easier than you're thinking right now. Find when the ball reaches its maximum height. Now wait a second. What shape is a t squared equation? If I graph this, what shape is an x squared? Parabola. Since it's got a negative in front of it, it's a parabola opening down. If I want to know the maximum, isn't that just a fancy way of saying find the vertex of this parabola? And how do I find the vertex? Remember when we found vertex, axis of symmetry and all that? I have a little formula. What's my little formula? X equals negative b over 2a. Boy, you guys gotta shake the cobwebs out. Negative b over 2a. Here we go. So my vertex will happen at negative b over 2a. So where x is 1,
Yeah.
and then how do I get the other point over here, the other coordinate?
Plug 1 in.
Plug in 1, and I do that carefully. If I'm gonna do it on my calculator, I gotta make sure I type it exactly the way Miss Ward wrote it. Otherwise, you're not gonna get the right answer. Okay? So it looks like it's 12?
Yes.
Now we have to answer the question. You found the maximum point, you found the vertex. This is the x coordinate, this is the y coordinate, right? In the equation, there weren't x's, there were t's. Why did they put t in there instead of x? Because it stands for time. So this is the time, and this is the y, which is the h, which is the height. So what does the question want to know? When will the ball reach its highest point? So what's the answer to the question? 1 second. What is the 12?
The height.
The height. So if it said what is the maximum height, we would say 12 feet. Alright, so this is another one of those, just like the box problem. Every time you do it, you're going to get an ordered pair, and you have to decide which of those two numbers is the one you want to use. Time, height. Okay, practice test 1, down the tubes. Here we go with number 2. Practice test 2. We have a couple new people to our class. Very grateful to have them. But guys, tell them, what does the actual test look like that we take?
Just like this.
It's just exactly like the practice test. So we gotta know everything on the practice test. Here we go, number 2. Oh, it's the one we just did. The height above the ground is given by this equation. Find the maximum height of the ball. So what do you think when you see that word maximum and you have an equation, a negative x squared, you know that's gonna be a parabola opening down, and we need that point, right? So how do we find it? We just did it now. You can't have forgotten already.
Negative b.
X equals negative b over 2a. So b is 64, a is negative 16, so it looks like this time x is going to be 2. And then I need my y. How do I find my y? Plug in 2. Carefully. I got 70, but I don't know. Is that right?
Yes.
70, right? All right, let's answer the question. What's the answer to the question gonna be? Find the maximum height of the ball, 70 feet. 70 feet. All right, looks like number 2 is kind of a repeat also. If x minus 3 is a factor, we gotta find the other ones. And again, I know there are going to be 2 more, right? Because this is an x cubed problem, and an x cubed problem needs 3 x's, 3 factors. All right, so what do I do? Think about, we just did it, what? Divide. So what's gonna go in the box?
3.
3. And 1, negative 17, 15. Everybody okay? Drop this 1 straight down. Here we go. 3 times 1 is 3. Add. 3 times 4 is 12. Add. 3 times negative 5. Add. And again, if it's a factor, that is going to happen. If that doesn't happen, then you need to back up and figure out what you're doing wrong. Because if they tell you that's a factor, they told me that's a factor, then it's going to divide in evenly. All right? Daniel, what do you think I'm going to do now after I get that divided in?
We're gonna find the other factors.
From what's left here, which is x squared plus 4x minus 5.
Yeah.
And I'm going to factor that. How does that factor? You guys see? See, check. Don't say it till you check it. What do you think those factors are? It's going to have to be a positive 5 and a negative 1, isn't it? Because they got to multiply, when you FOIL it, they got to multiply to be negative 5, and they got to add up to be positive 4. So the other 2 factors are x plus 5 and x minus 1. Okay? Use synthetic division. remainder is just straight out dividing. There's no blank there, but let's make a blank. You're gonna have quotient and remainder. What's gonna go in the box if I'm doing synthetic division? A positive 1. And then what's gonna go here? All these numbers are gonna start with a 4. 0, negative 3, 0, 9, and 2. I got wild and wacky there. There's 2 things missing, right? Gotta keep those beady little eyes open. I have 2 of them missing. Drop my 4 straight down, and here we go. 1 times 4, add. 1 times 4, add. 1 times 1, add. 1 times 1, add. And 1 times 10, add. Now let's check that just to make sure I didn't make a careless error. Anybody get that on your own? Don't just copy mine down. Anybody look that out and get it?
Yep.
Okay. So now what's the quotient? What am I gonna write down as my quotient? Remember, we started with an x to the 5th. So my quotient is going to start with 4x to the 4th.
Yep.
1 less. And then 4x cubed, x squared, x, and 10. And again, my remainder is 12. You can either write 12, that's fine, or you can put 12 over x minus 1. Okay? Are you ready for the next one? Write the equation. Okay. So we're gonna have y equals, all right, I know I'm gonna have 3 parentheses. How do I know that there are going to be 3 parentheses?
There's 3 points.
There's 3 x-intercepts. Look at the dots on the x-axis, right? Those are the only ones that count right now, the ones on the x-axis. I can tell by where they are that my parentheses are gonna be what? X plus 2 minus 3 minus 5. Right, everyone? Now look carefully at the picture though. Notice that at -2, isn't the picture bouncing? So what does that mean? This factor has to be squared? Are there any other squares in here? Yep, there's another one at 5. Notice the picture bounces, it makes a parabola shape, right? Everybody good with that? We're done, except for one thing. What's the one thing that's missing? That guy right there. We have no idea what he is. But what do we have in the problem that's gonna help us figure that out? We have the point 1 comma 6. So we'll put 6 in for the y and 1 for all of the x's. So the random point 1 comma 6, not a parentheses, it's not on the x-axis. I plug in the 6 and the 1, and now I'm gonna do my math and figure this out. So 1 plus 2 is 3, squared is 9. 1 minus 3, 1 minus 5, squared, 16. Ooh, I don't times 16 and got negative 288. So when I divide, I get 6 over negative 288, which is divisible by 2. And actually, that's divisible by 3. I got negative 148. I did that without a calculator though, so who knows?
That's right.
Is that right?
Yep.
And then I keep warning you about this because I've just seen it happen too many times. We just did a whole bunch of work here to get that 1 over 48, but that is not the answer. The answer is the whole equation with the negative 148 put in as the n. Your job was to write the equation. So that, the equation is the answer. Okie dokie?
Thank you.
All right, number 5, consider this polynomial. What are the possible rational roots? Okay. So how do we find our PRRs, our possible rational roots? Factors of 4 over factors of 1. Now, I'm going to set aside just quickly, make a note here. If the problem had been 2x cubed, I don't know, it's pretty different. Yeah, 3x. If the problem had been 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 6x minus 4, then your PRRs would be 4, 2, and 1, factors of 4, but this time over factors of 3. And we have to recognize that that means you have 4 over 1, 2 over 1, and 1 over 1. So you literally have 4, 2, and 1. But you also have 4 over 3, 2 over 3, and 1 over 3. It's all the factors of 4 divided by all the factors of 3. Now, we don't worry about it here because that's just 1. But if that's some other number, then you have to recognize fractions are possibilities for you. Possible rational roots. Okay, I don't know if you looked at the homeworks I've returned, but I've been trying to correct that in the homework as I'm returning it to make sure you get all of your possible rational roots. All right, and here we just have 4, 2, and 1. All right, so what are we going to do now? We've got our roots listed. Now we're supposed to find them. What do we do? We start dividing. What do you want to start with? Let's start with 2. Seems like 2 works a lot. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but it worked a lot the other day, and it worked again. 2 does not always work, but it seems to be a good place to start. How do I know it worked? I got a 0 for my remainder, right? Right? What do I do if it doesn't give me 0? Try again. And I just keep trying from this list right here until I get 1. All right, now what? So what? One of my roots is x equals 2. Perfect. How do I find the other ones? There's 3 terms, 2 more. How do I find them? What's left here? X squared. Luke, you with us this morning? Okay. So that's what's left. What do you think, Kendall? Did I wake you up? Yeah. anyone know? What do? Factor it. If it factors, factoring would be a good plan. We did that over here with one of these other problems we did. We factored it. Unfortunately, what do you notice? It doesn't factor. So what do we do when we have a quadratic equation that doesn't factor? We use the quadratic formula. So here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We've talked about this before, gang. You gotta know the quadratic formula. Pops up all the time. Gotta know it. So if you forgot it, get it back in your head. What's under the radical here? Negative 4 plus or minus what? 16 minus 8. So 8. If we want to get full credit, then we gotta simplify this. So tell me about the square root of 8. Well, 8 is 4 and 2, and 4 is 2 and 2, right? So 2 square root 2, I can take a 2 out and I still have 1 left over. And it keeps going, because what do you notice? We can cancel all of these spots. If you're gonna cancel, you have to be able to cancel all of the green spots. And we can't. So we can take a 2 out. So I think the other 2 roots, one of them was 2, and the other ones are negative 2 plus or minus root 2. You probably don't remember, it's been a few days ago, but on the first practice test, there was a problem where you had to use the quadratic formula. You'll have one on the test, so make sure you know it. Okay, number 6, factor and sketch. All right, what do you think when you look at this problem? Do you notice anything? Factor this thing? How would I factor it? Grouping?
Yeah,
So let's take an x squared out. X plus 5. Take out a minus 4. X plus 5, right? So we've got our x plus 5. Let's say it one more time. You just write it down. That's your common factor. Just write it down. Don't square it. Don't write it twice. Just write it down. X plus 5. And then we have x squared minus 4 left over. And we all know that x squared minus 4 is x plus 2x minus 2. And now we are factored. So the factoring part is done. There are the factors. Now we're going to sketch it. So let's remind ourselves what's going through our heads. What's going through our heads is nothing squared, so there won't be any bouncing. I'm just going to draw my curve straight through. My x-intercepts are going to be at negative 5, You must label these points. Some of you are very lazy. Gotta label your intercepts. And now we're gonna connect the dots. So the only thing we have to know is, do I start down here and connect this way? Or do I start up here and connect this way? Start down. And how do I know I start down? Because this is an x cubed. 3 is odd, and odd starts down. So I'm gonna start down here. And there we go. That's all there is to it. This one's already factored, number 7 is already factored. All I need to do is sketch it. So what do I start with? I start by plotting my intercepts. So I've got one of 1, -4, and 3. Now I notice I've got some bouncing in this problem, right? You notice that? You're gonna bounce here, and you're gonna bounce here. Right? Okay, so I gotta remember that when I get there. Where do I start? I start down here. How do I know I start down there? How many x's are there in the problem? 5. 5 is odd. Odd starts down. If there had been 6, I would start up here. Evens start up. All right. When I get to this dot, I have to ask myself, what am I going to do? Am I going to go through, bounce, what? Well, that dot came from this factor, folks. So it's going to go right through and connect here. That dot came from this factor, so it's going to bounce off and connect. That dot came from that factor, so it's going to bounce off. And there's your picture. Okay? Pressure varies inversely as volume. All right, guys, when you have one of these variation problems, various problems, there's 2 things that can happen. We have pressure and we have volume, right? It's either going to be P equals K times V, or P equals K divided by V. Those are the only 2 options. Which one is it in this particular problem?
The bottom.
It's the bottom one, because it says inversely, and that's the inverse relationship. This is the direct relationship. So if it said varies directly, we would do that form. Okay? So this is the equation I'm going to use now. If the pressure is 80, the volume is 16. So I take my equation and I simply plug in the pressure and the volume that they gave me. So now I'll multiply by 16, and what is K going to equal? 1,280. is K, you guys. That's this number right here. Find the pressure when the volume is 40. So I'm right back to this equation again. I need to find the pressure, P, you don't know it. I know K is 1280, and I know the volume is 40. So whatever that is, what is that, 32?
Yep.
So the answer, finally, the ultimate final answer is 32. List the PRRs. Here we go. What are my PRRs?
8, 4, 2.
Plus or minus 8, 4, 2, and 1. Those can be in any order. Those can be in any order. And don't forget over factors of, in this case, 1. All right, those are the PRRs. Find the factors. Well, a minute ago I did a problem like this and I grouped. Is this one going to group? No, it isn't. So what are we going to have to do? We're going to pick a number and divide. So what would you like to try? 2? 4? I don't care. Try whatever you want to try. I'm going to go with 2 to see what happens. Lo and behold, it worked. That tells me that whatever else it looks like, there is an intercept at 2. That number right there is a 0. That's a dot, next intercept. Now there's 2 more. Where are they gonna come from?
X squared plus
X squared plus 5x plus 4. What are those factors?
4, 1.
4, 1. Which means in my picture, I have an intercept at -1 and -4. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Part B says find the factors. What are the 3 factors? There are 2 of them. What's the third factor? X minus 2, very, very good. Remember, the opposite is what you put in the box, right? Doesn't that have a dot at 2? Yeah. So here are your factors. So this is the answer to part B. Then part C says, okay, now sketch it. Well, I got my intercepts up there. Start up or down? Down. Any bouncing?
Nope.
No. So just connect the dots. Some of you are bounce happy. Remember, we only bounce if we have a factor that has a square on it, right? No square, no bounce. Okay, cross number 10 off. Remember, that's the one you're not responsible for, so just cross that off. And then we're ready for our polynomial questions. Are they polynomials? If not, why not? What do you think about A?
No.
No. Why not?
X
X in denominator. You cannot have an X in the denominator. Back that up, Charles. All right, everybody okay with A? What about B?
Yes.
Yep, B is fine. B is fine. That's a polynomial. How about C? C is fine. Now, that's me trying to trick you. There's a radical in that problem, right? But what's our rule? No X under the radical, right? And so it's okay. C is perfectly okay. Now D, on the other hand,
No.
is a no, because you can't have the X under the radical. How about E?
Yes.
E's okay. Again, I'm just trying to be tricky. I'm trying to throw you off track. E is full of fractions. Fractions are okay as long as they're not exponents, right? You can't have a fractional exponent. Everybody okay with this? All right, 12. Write the equation of the linear function. Your f of 1 is 4 and f of 3 is 8. Suresh, were you gonna say something? You wanna say something? No? Naz? Can you hold on for 10 more minutes? Can you? Okay. Try to hang on for 10 more minutes, all right? Do you need a cracker or something to eat? All right, write the equation of a linear function. When you hear that word linear, the first thing that pops into your head better be, I have to find the slope. These are points. F of x, so this is the x. X is 1, y is 4. So what's my slope? 8 minus 4 over 3 minus 1. 2? Right? And if the slope is 2, then I'm ready to write my equation. I'll pick one of my points. Or I'll pick this one this time. Doesn't matter which point I pick. No. So y minus 8 equals 2x minus 3. Remember, this is xy here. So y minus 8, x minus 3. And then I'll go ahead and get y by itself so it looks like a function. So I got f of x equals 2x plus 2. What do you think about that? Are you okay with that? All right, now B is a little bit trickier. B is one of those that you just really have to practice and study. Am I going to find slope in problem B?
Is it wrong if we put the y equals 2x plus 2, or do you want it like
It's
that?
better to put that, but I'm not gonna mark it wrong if you put y equals. All right, guys. What am I shooting for? Like for my line, I wanted y equals mx plus b. What kind of equation am I shooting for in B? I need an equation that looks like this. Do you remember that? This is, you're just gonna have to practice, okay? Because this is easy to forget. This is what you want your parabola to look like. Because where's my vertex? My vertex would be at -5, -4. So we're building an equation that looks looks like that. Now, what do we know? We know our vertex is at 3, 1. So y equals, what's in the parentheses? X,
Plus three.
not plus 3,
Minus.
minus 3 squared, and then plus 1. Remember your transformations from the last chapter. This goes right 3, up 1. Right 3, up 1. That's what I want. I want my parabola to be at 3, 1. That is the answer to the problem, except for one thing. What's missing, just like it was a little bit ago? This guy right here, yeah. It's not really slope, but that coefficient, right? That coefficient's missing. How am I gonna find that coefficient? I'm gonna do what I did before. I'm gonna plug in that extra point they give me. They tell me that I contain negative 4, 2. So 2 goes in for y, and negative 4 goes in for x. Just like it did with my polynomial function. So, what's negative 4 minus 3 squared? So I got 49 n's plus 1. Please don't add the 49 and the 1. The 49 is up to the n. It's 49n. So I'll subtract 1. So 1 equals 49n if I subtract 1 from both sides. And it looks like n equals 1 over 49. Is that what I put in the answer blank? No. I write the equation in the answer blank. And there is your equation. Remember, n is just the coefficient. It isn't the answer. It's the thing in front of your parentheses. That's one you're probably going to want to go back and redo that one a couple of times. And finally, we got 2 more to do here. Let's see if we can get them done. How do we find the vertex, axis of symmetry, and direction of opening for this equation? Vertex, axis of symmetry, direction of opening. Here we go. How do we do it? We know it opens up because that number right there is positive 1.
Negative b.
Negative b, x equals negative b over 2a. Negative b over 2a, I got negative 3. Which means what? My vertex is negative 3, comma. Plug in negative 3. Again, if you're doing it on your calculator, make sure you're doing it right. You get negative 13.
Yep.
And then there's one more of those, same exact thing, except be careful. This equation looks like it has something missing. This is A, and this is B, right? C is missing, but I really don't care because I don't need it. For this problem, I don't need it. Which way do I open? Up. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative b over 2a. I got 2. So my vertex is 2, comma. Now I'll plug 2 in. do our last practice test, tomorrow. Oh, shoot. Why not see you guys then till Friday?
Yeah, 'cause you don't have school.
Oh, my land ocean. Well, you'll have to practice and remember. Okay, go ahead, gather up everything.
That's the PSAT.
I know.
Now.
I thought it was due tomorrow.
Oh, so they turned it in. Hey, pull that out.
I had to mind her read though.
You have to do Q5. Q5's been assigned already.
Oh, I have research.